Hello and ni hao to Inside Grand Prix. And it's the Chinese Grand Prix we focus on today. First now then in close-up, it's all about people and places. It's the world's oldest living culture. A country known as the origin of many intellectual and medical achievements, and as home to the panda. Welcome to the Middle Kingdom. Welcome to China. With the grip of communism overcome, China has become one of the most aspirant and fast-growing countries in the global economy.
Commercially, it's a huge opportunity for Formula One and the manufacturers to be out there. China is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful nations in the world. So they're very important for us to race there and go and put on a great sporting event for them to come and watch. And they've done that by building a fantastic facility for us to race at. So it's good for us to go and do that. And I mean, certain parts of China are spectacular. You know, Beijing and certain sections of, you've got the Terracotta Army and the Great Wall of China and lots of places I've been to see. So it's a fantastic part of the world.
The Great Wall, the most famous structure in China, is the longest defensive line on Earth. At over 6,000 kilometers in length, a relic of bygone days. Due to Western influences, the country is now opening up and presenting a new look. Turning old into new, as in Shanghai, the city used to be a small, insignificant fishing village. Now it's a vibrant metropolis on the East China Sea.
Ich sollte letztes Jahr sogar möglicherweise fahren da, deswegen bin ich dahin gereist.
Yes, there was a chance I'd be driving there last year, so I made the trip. The city itself was great. I really liked it because it's actually got a bit of an international feel too. It's not just China, it's a bit more international. It's got international bars, for instance. I had great fun there, especially as I sampled the nightlife a bit, as in the end I didn't drive.
Konnte ich das Nachtleben auch ein bisschen erforschen da.
Shanghai is also impressive by day. While Beijing is the country's capital, Shanghai is the most important for industry. And with a population of 10 million, is also the People's Republic of China's largest city. In 2004, half an hour's drive to the south, one of Formula One's most modern circuits was built in just 18 months. All that the Chinese lack now is a local racing hero. The Chinese spectators come along in great numbers. I remember it well. And of course, it's great that they can get so enthusiastic, even though they had no local hero driving in the race. I think it would be very good for Formula One if they could build up someone from China as a great racing driver. A Chinese proverb says, if you don't change your line, you'll have no chance to pass. Whether the anonymous author was already thinking of Grand Prix racing is not known. What's sure is that the world's most populous country is now set to play host for the third time to Formula One. Coming up in Safety Focus, we look at the correct fueling strategy. But first, a lap around the circuit just outside Shanghai. The Shanghai International Circuit, a modern track that's simply got everything a driver could ever wish for.
China is a race which has a long straight, so you have to protect yourself against that with the wing settings and the top speed that you'll probably have to then compromise yourself for the slower sections of the circuit. And Shanghai has absolutely everything. It has very fast corners, long straights, heavy braking and tight hairpins. So it's got a real mix, and it's a very enjoyable track to drive on, and a huge challenge for the team and the drivers to get right.
The first challenge comes right after the long start-finish straight. You have to weave in here at the right time, because without the right line, you'll lose valuable ground. Then two very tough switchback corners, with changes in weight distribution that both car and driver must be well prepared for.
Shanghai there's a lot of high-speed combinations in Shanghai, change of direction, so it's important that you have a car that is responsive, so it's not lazy when you're turning the steering wheel. As soon as you turn the wheel, you want it to go in one direction or the other. The tyres are, I would say, on the medium side as well because of that. And also strategy-wise, it's normally a two or even a 3-stop. I think it's unlikely to see a 3-stop now because of the qualifying regulations, so I would guess it's a 2-stop.
The strategy is decided by our team colleagues. We'll concentrate on the track ahead. Giving it everything on the throttle, we pick up speed and race through a fast left-hander. Straining every muscle, we resist the incredible G-forces that tear at our helmet. It's still a relatively new circuit, adorning the Formula One calendar for the 3rd time. As a result, the asphalt's still very level. The best tyre compound, fairly soft, and the grip thus perfect. The next key point is approaching.
In the middle sector, you have a very fast left-right into a double right, and that's quite really rewarding. I love that part of the track, but quite tough to get right, and the last sector is quite straightforward.
We need good timing to enable us to get on the throttle again, as one of the fastest parts of the circuit comes next, peaking at up to 340 kilometers an hour as we approach the hairpin. Braking too early or too late is risky and loses time. We drop our speed down to just below 90, a good opportunity to overtake. The layout of the circuit, incidentally, is in the shape of the Chinese character Shang, which roughly means high up. Now, the current championship standings. Here are the driver and team positions. Michael Schumacher is within striking distance, just 2 more points to catch up with the reigning world champion. Kimi Räikkönen has drawn level with Fisichella. Ferrari now lead the Constructors' Championship. Renault are down to 2nd. Behind them, McLaren. Next in Legends, Formula One 30 years ago. Now in personal, Rubens Barrichello. The look of a winner. 2 years ago, Rubens Barrichello wrote Grand Prix history, winning the first race in China. But those were the days still in red, the days with his old team Ferrari. Somewhere he actually always felt at home, a top team with top cars. But unfortunately also with the top driver as teammate. Days, therefore, when the Brazilian was usually in someone else's shadow. For 6 years, Rubens Barrichello was Michael Schumacher's right-hand man. His colleagues' records and success were stifling. To be the number 2 forever, that was something Barrichello simply couldn't stomach.
Yes, we did have some small problems, but we did have so many glory days as well. And I think I'm proud to say that I contributed to many things at Ferrari, and they did it to me as well. It's only because of Ferrari that I'm able to choose to go to another team and try to be a world champion.
By changing to Honda, he at least had the chance in 2006 to step up to being the number 1 in the team. But that's no easy task, for in Jenson Button he again has a strong teammate, whom he's got to outperform on the track. And while Button's already celebrated his first win, Barrichello's still battling to make it to the podium.
The most important thing is that we have respect for each other. Obviously we're going to try to beat each other, but it's the respect, I think, it needs to be with us all the time. Yeah. Did he do this on me? You see?
Did you play guitar? No, not yet.
That he's a lousy musician is something he's long accepted. But anyone who's born in Interlagos essentially has no other choice than to become a racing driver. That this was his destiny was clear to everyone, except his father. He still had to be hoodwinked.
And this is one of the first trophies. I finished 3rd, and it was the beginning of everything. And I remember well that day. My father didn't know that I was going to race because he thought that I wasn't prepared to race. So my uncle signed every paper for me, and I started racing, and then my father knew just when I was going to race.
Fully official now is his deal with Honda, a team still being put together. And his 3 wishes there for himself.
My 3 wishes for this year, I mean, realistically, would be to
to win a couple races. If it can be on the same wish or not, win Brazil, then I still have 2 or 1. It's got to be all. I mean, that's every effort that we're putting onto the car, that it comes back to us. That's my main wish.
13 years ago, as a 20-year-old, Barrichello celebrated his Formula One debut. His goal remains the same, like Ayrton Senna, one day to become world champion. Coming up in Safety Focus, refueling in Formula One. And now in Techno, hot and under great mechanical strain, the pistons. Flat out in Formula One, that means up to 20,000 RPM, sheer slaughter for engine components. Mahler are the pros when it comes to race pistons, supplying over half of all Formula One teams. Pistons are among the parts put under the greatest strain. Around 4 million explosions, each of 300 degrees Celsius, blast over them during their racing life. Here, teamwork is everything.
The
technical developers on both sides, on ours, analysis, design and application technology. On the other side, engine developers, test bench people and designers all get together and define development objectives, lines of attack, and of course deadlines too, such as when particular specifications are to be used. Then, working in tandem, we define what can be achieved within what period and which technical solutions are to be pursued on what level of priority, bearing in mind that in Formula One, we're always continually doing more development to extremely tight deadlines from one race to the next. The first stage sees pre-machined pistons subjected to heat treatment. Actually, rather than heat, it would be more accurate to say extreme heat. The ingots pass through several stages within a furnace at around 500 degrees Celsius. This gives the aluminium alloy the optimum density and strength. Using a special liquid, the pistons are then slowly cooled back down. All, of course, computer controlled. The pistons are finally machined using high-tech tools, likewise computer-controlled and precise to the millionth degree. Material is trimmed off down to a clearly defined thickness, with each piston machined according to its own computer program. And cleanliness is always all-important. One overlooked metal splinter in the engine would cause untold damage. Pistons for production cars are designed for long life. Racing pistons have to last for precisely 2 races or 8 hours. And only a light piston is a good piston. The engineers work at the very margin. Based on an operational strength analysis, we see where the piston is under too much strain and where there are areas under much less strain. We can then adapt the piston's design by strengthening the overburdened areas, increasing wall thicknesses and adding material. As long as the piston will still work properly, we can also thin down underburdened areas, making walls less thick, removing material and thus reducing the weight. Maximum performance can only be achieved with flawless pistons. Immediately after they're cleaned, a luminous contrast agent is thus applied and checks are made for any irregularities. Fluorescent agent highlights even the finest hairline crack. The final technical check is the precise measurement of every single race piston. However, this does not yet completely separate the wheat from the chaff. Gauges only register individual points, which are checked against set tolerances. The last test in the sequence is still done manually. Only with the human eye is it possible to review the result in its entirety and pass final judgment. Piston production means tension all season long, for the fact is that During the 8 to 10 months that the race season lasts, both on the engine side and on ours, especially in terms of the pistons, boundary conditions change. The fact that accumulated loads alter, that rev counts, for instance, are increased or fuel consumption optimized. These are things we have to take very much into account in piston development. Once again, it's technical and machine engineering skills plus attention to minute detail that are a key to a Formula One car's reliability and success. And to making sure that the field actually makes it to the checkered flag. Time for a short break, but we'll be right back with our news and facts. In Safety Focus, 9 litres a second, the refueling process in Formula One. Don't go away. Welcome back to Inside Grand Prix. Coming up, news and facts. But first, in Safety Focus, time to refuel. More than 40,000 kilojoules per litre. 99% of standard unleaded premium, plus 1% of that certain something. Formula One petrol, a safely guarded secret. Every team fuels its races with its very own special mixture.
Die Treibstofftests,
The fuel tests, which are mandatory, are always conducted by the engine manufacturer in cooperation with the petrol producer.
Sprithersteller gemacht.
In other words, lengthy test stand experiments are performed in order to produce the best possible molecular structure for the fuel. All within the scope of the regulations, of course, as these state quite specifically what's allowed and what isn't.
Definiert, was man machen darf, was man nicht machen darf.
For the drivers, only one thing counts. Tickle the maximum out of the 800 horsepower machines by using the best fuel. The underlying principle is that less petrol makes the car lighter and thus allows faster laps.
Wenn man jetzt neue Reifen hat und einmal voll, einmal leer ist.
If you've got new tires, there's a huge difference if your tank is full or empty, especially in the cornering speeds.
Ich habe das hier jetzt vor kurzem einen Test gemacht.
Recently I did a test and drove with a little bit less fuel, and you could really drive through with full cornering speed. I really thought, this isn't possible. It's just amazing when the car's empty.
Macht auch richtig Spaß, wenn das Auto leer ist.
From the handling point of view, it's just the same, but it's just great fun. You can really attack, you can push to the limit. It's really cool.
Voll ans Limit gehen und es ist schon schön.
How much petrol to take on board for the race, and when to stop for refueling. The all deciding questions for the race strategy. With a full tank, you can stay out there longer than the competition. When they're then forced to head for the pit lane, it's a free run on the circuit, hopefully. The alternative, quickly gain a lead on the others with a lighter car and head on for the pit stop with the accumulated seconds. Refuel with the lead covering your back.
If you start off with a very heavy car, this will be harder on the tyres will wear out faster. It would also be slower on lap time. So there's always a balance with fuel weight, tyres, expected speed on the track. If you run for lower fuel, to try and get a faster lap time. If you get held up by a slower car that's running with more fuel or harder tyres, this can all come to nothing. So it's a difficult balance.
During the pit stop, every fraction of time counts. The car has to stop in precisely the right position so the hose can be connected. The petrol shoots into the tank at 12 litres a second. The fuel hose has a two-way system. Once the hose is connected to the coupling, the first outer tube opens and acts as an air valve. Pressure and petrol fumes can leave the tank. Then the valve on the inner hose opens and the calculated amount of fuel is pumped in. Refueling strategy. This gamble for seconds requires perfect teamwork.
The fuel stops themselves are a fundamental part of the strategy, because if you're going to do one stop or two stop or three, it's important. So if you're doing a 3-stop, you can't get anything wrong on the strategy, because on the refueling, because if something goes wrong, you are directly hurting the strategy time. It's the same with any stop, to be honest, but the longer if you're going for a 1-stop and you're only in the pits once, you only have one chance for a mistake. 3 times in there, you have three times the chance of having a mistake.
Fuel, tires, how the race turns out. Every strategy must accommodate a couple of contingency laps. And if the selected tactic fails, battle plan B is applied to the race.
You're looking at what lap other people go to and you modify yours accordingly. Sometimes you also change strategy from 3-stop back to a 2-stop or something, or from 2-stop to a 1-stop. And this can happen if you made a mistake in the race and you qualified in the wrong place, or a safety car happened at the wrong time. You can quite easily change from one strategy to another.
Adrenaline in the cockpit and the correct fuel at just the right moment. The secret formula to get the mixture right for the best performance. Exactly 30 years ago, Formula One, not in China, but in Holland. In Holland, James Hunt keeps up his championship chances with a place on the front row of the grid. Next to him, Ronnie Peterson in the march. The Dunes circuit at Zandvoort on the North Sea coast is a tricky one. Fine sand repeatedly changes the characteristics of the track. The key here is grip and dealing as well as possible with the changing conditions. At the end of the long home straight, Ronnie Peterson breaks better than all the others into the legendary and notorious Tarzan corner, and is for now able to take the lead. John Watson takes James Hunt by surprise. Then comes the rest of the 26 drivers. Hunt is under incredible pressure in this race. He has to win at all costs if he wants to keep his hopes of winning the title alive. While Niki Lauda is still out after his bad crash at the Nürburgring, he's already preparing for a comeback. Going into the race, Hunt was 25 points behind. He's now naturally hoping to close the gap with a win. And to do that, he has to fend off John Watson. But he has no intention of giving up easily. Watson attacks Hunt again and again. The slipstream on the home straight gives him enough pull to pounce as they approach Tarzan corner. James Hunt takes the fighting line, repeatedly trying to tempt his rival into minor driving errors, and thus to gain some breathing space. Lap after lap, the same scenario. Hunt leading, Watson right behind. Then on lap 47, James Hunt can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The Penske slows up and rolls out of the race behind the pits with gearbox failure. After 105 minutes at the wheel, James Hunt achieves his aim. Victory in Holland, and now a gap of just 16 points to Niki Lauda. And it's his birthday too. What a great present.
What it really means now is that whatever I do at Monza, when Niki comes back in Canada, that the situation is going to be very, very close, and so it's going to be a hell of a fight to the finish. So,
and if he comes back at Monza, what do you think?
Well, it starts all the sooner.
The result in Zandvoort, James Hunt wins his 4th race of the season. Clay Regazzoni takes 6 points for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, and Mario Andretti gets onto the podium for the first time in 1976. And with James Hunt winning on his birthday, it's not hard to imagine all the hijinks he got up to later. Time for our news and facts. The beautiful against the quick in a totally new way. Red Bull's Formula Uno girls took on the Toro Rosso drivers in uppercars, actually 3-wheelers for the road, tuned here for cross-country. At a scorching 45 degrees in the shade and with dust everywhere, the handling was far from easy. Some found it relatively easy, but others found it harder. But no worries, there weren't any injuries, but certainly lots of fun. The rumours surrounding the Midland team have been simmering away for weeks. Who will take it over? Who will be the new owner? Now it's all become clear. Midland has been taken over by a Dutch business consortium that also owns the traditional sports car producer Spyker. The business, renowned for its craftsmanship, was revived in 1999. Formula One high-tech and traditional car-making expertise will come together in a perfect symbiosis in the new Spiker MF1 racing team. The Brembo engineers have located the hardest braking point just before the hairpin in the last third of the track. The drivers brake hard from 310 k's down to about 90, ready to drive on the ideal line through this corner after just 3.6 seconds. Their bodies are subjected to a full 5G. That was Inside Grand Prix. We'll be back for the next Grand Prix in Japan.